Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, it's game day. The Sens are looking to accomplish something they've never done before: win a game in Seattle.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen. It's my guy, Zack. You can find out how a Chicago native became an Ottawa Senators fan.
All that plus, Sportico is reporting that there are 9 initial bids to buy the Ottawa Senators, and they go how high? All that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
And welcome to episode 752 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Thursday, March 9th, and Pilsy, the Melnick estate is about to be very, very, very rich.
Yeah, and Ross, I can confirm Ross and I were not one of the 9 bidders on the sale of the Ottawa Senators. The Cabo trip ran us a little extra, so we couldn't get that bid in time. Too bad, eh?
Darn it. Yes, but it does sound like the numbers are high, above $900 million per se. That was the price of the last NHL team to be sold as well, the Pittsburgh Penguins, to the Fenway Group. But when you look at why the Senators' price could be so high, Sportico and Forbes valued it at $650 million just this past year, which would have been 27th out of 32 NHL teams. But the real estate, this is as much a real estate deal as it is an NHL team purchase. Now, we don't know exactly how much smoke and mirrors are going on in the negotiating process. A lot of NDAs have been signed, and even this number coming out that these are all we know is there's 9 bids that have gone in, and 900 million plus seems to be the high end of those bids.
Yeah, and I think that's something that fans need to realize is this isn't so much a deal about owners wanting to score goals and win Stanley Cups as it is a real estate deal. And that's where it's fortunate that the Ottawa Senators are in a position where they have an old rink and they're trying to move, because these new owners now have full control over the development of how they're going to have the new arena built, where it's going to be built, what they're going to develop around it. So I think that's the real prize of the Ottawa Senators here. And like they mentioned in the article, Ross, being in a capital city, there's lots of opportunities around. So I think overall, if you're someone looking to buy the Ottawa Senators, it's the potential that this team has and the control that you have to make it what you want.
No NHL team has ever sold for more than $900 million. Let that sink in. I know there's teams that are valued by more, but the Habs, Leafs, Rangers, all those teams haven't been sold since. A Canadian team hasn't been sold since Winnipeg got a team in 2011, and that they were doing the league a favor by getting them out of Atlanta, where they were just dying. What do you think they sold for then? Winnipeg Jets purchase price. I'm curious, because obviously there's a lot difference. $650 million was the purchase price. Or sorry, that's
more than I thought it would be.
That's what they're valued now. That's what they're valued now.
Yeah.
At the time, it was $375 million.
That makes sense.
No, that was the valuation at the time. The price paid $170 million. So now you're looking at 10, 12 years later, obviously different market, different team. And somebody made a great point in the quote tweets as well. It was a guy, Eben, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, a sports business reporter at Sportico. And he mentioned that it's a lot more affordable versus NBA or NFL. So if people are looking to get into sports ownerships, it's a nice entry-level position, Pilsy, at $900 million.
Yeah, imagine describing a $900 million thing as affordable.
Yes. This last note I chuckled at, because he said it's a capital city, which offers proximity to power. I don't think Eugene Melnick got any power in his 15 years owning the Ottawa Senators just by being in Ottawa.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what they're getting at is that there's a lot of different opportunities that Ottawa has available than, let's say, a Winnipeg or an Edmonton or something, just because it is a capital city. So I think and it's very close to Montreal. It's close to Toronto. There's a lot of potential here.
There certainly is. Now, who will pull the trigger? Hopefully, we find out sooner rather than later. But at this point, we kind of earmarked the trade deadline as a point in the process of maybe this is when Ottawa will get sold. But then it was pushed back, the initial bids, and now here we are after the trade deadline. I think it could be even into the summer, but
Yeah.
Bruce Garriock is kind of a finger on the pulse of this one. And then, of course, Sportico in the States, they're a company that kind of built on this, right? You look at what they call themselves, a high quality digital content company providing sports industry breaking news, leadership, and insight. So I'm going to wait until we get more information before we, start getting into too much about the nitty gritty and who could be involved. We know that Ryan Reynolds is in with the Remington Group. We know that Michael Andlauer, who currently is a part of the Montreal Canadiens investing group, could he be in the mix? There's a lot more to be weaved through, and I would love to be a fly on the wall in the league office going through these. But just an update on the sale. It is progressing. The first bids have been in. There's 9 of them. So there has to be some mystery groups in there, Pilsy, because we haven't heard 9 groups being mentioned publicly.
Yep, there's definitely some mystery groups in here, but I think we don't know this, but I really think they're kind of the final horses in the race. I think there's 3 or 4 people that are really top contenders. So we'll see how this all shakes out, but I don't think it's going to happen in the immediate future. Ross, I'm with you. I think this probably goes to the summer.
The immediate future includes Senators games, though. Let's get to a preview of tonight's Ottawa Senators game in Seattle, where they played their worst game of last season, and now they're coming off the worst game of this season, the 5-0 loss to the Chicago Blackhawks. Get your coffee on late. It's a 10 p.m. Eastern start on the left coast. We'll get into that game day preview a little later on after a SensCentral Citizen. But first, a word from one of our favorite sponsors. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. They're the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network for a good reason. They're the number 1 sportsbook in North America. They're an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and they are the app that I use when I'm making a wager on the Sens games. And speaking of the app, I love the app because it's simple. It's secure, it's safe, it's easy to use. They have lots of fun promotions. You guys know I'm hitting the first to 5 shots bet for the Ottawa Senators. That's actually in the pluses for the first time in a while. You got to think, Ross, the boys are going to come out hard after a tough loss like that. So I think they're going to get 5 shots right off the bat. But that's just one of the many bets you can make. There's money line, puck line, point spread, player props, whatever you're into. They got it at FanDuel, and you can get a bigger chance at a bigger payout with same game parlays. And for our friends like Zack down in the States, if you are a new customer, you can get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked-on. Once more, guys, go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You know we love our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. You can visit them in the heart of the Glebe right there at 779 Bank Street. Not only do they have great drink specials, an amazing atmosphere with events that you can go check out all the time at the neighborhood establishment at the Glebe Central Pub, but they're also huge Sens fans, and they have a shuttle that goes to and from the CTC pretty much every other game. You can go check out the full list of games that they have available for the Glebe Central Pub shuttle, and it's all for $15 round trip. An Uber to the game is like $40. So why not just pay $15, get that inclusive atmosphere on the bus, make new friends, have a pint, hang out, and then get right on the bus back to the Glebe Central Pub afterwards. If you're walking distance from there or you take local transportation, it's just easier to do when you're already in the city. We know how much of a hike the CTC can be, so make it easy for you and your family. Go check out the Glebe Central Pub bus shuttles. You can buy tickets online at GlebeCentralPub.com. You can also check them out on social media for all the great events that they market. It's at Glebe Central Pub, and it's at 779 Bank Street. Make sure when you go, you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. We love our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. Check them out, the GLEBE Central Pub. We'll see you tonight in the postcast presented by the GLEBE Central Pub. They're at 779 Bank Street, and make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. All right, let's get to this week's SensCentral Citizen. Here's young Zachary. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. We're going down to the States. It's Zack. You can follow Zack on Twitter at YoungZachary96. Zack, welcome to Locked On Senators. How you doing today, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I mean, the timing could have been a bit better based on something we'll get into, but we always have to start off the same way. Now, I see a Chicago Blackhawks jersey in the background. We mentioned that you're in the States. You're actually in Vegas right now. How does one become an Ottawa Senators fan down there?
Well, okay, it's 2004. I'm just starting to watch sports. The Lakers are in the NBA Finals with Kobe Bryant and Shaq, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are playing the Calgary Flames. I was cheering for Tampa to win that one, but looking back at it, I think Calgary lost that series. Tampa didn't win it. And then the lockout year happens, obviously, and after that, I remember playing NHL 05, and we're going through the teams with my sister, and I saw the Ottawa Senators, and not to dox myself, but I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago. I lived on North Ottawa Ave, and that's all. I'm not giving out any address, but became a Sens fan all of a sudden. Having Hashtag help, and also that run in 07 was pretty sweet too. So yeah, that's how I became a Sens fan.
That's awesome. I love it when it's just as simple as, hey, I live on Ottawa Street. There's a team, the Ottawa Senators. I'm an Ottawa Senators fan. Like, did you have even any idea where Ottawa was, or did you know a single thing about the city, or is it just as simple as Ottawa Street?
Ottawa Street, but I always knew it was in Ontario and it was by Toronto or by up coast of Michigan, even a little bit more east. But I've over the years, I've learned more and more about it. Yeah.
So you had some geographical knowledge of it, so that's good.
Sorry.
I was at
a hockey game one time, a Chicago Wolves game, and they were playing the Iowa Wild, and this kid in front of me thought it was Ottawa. And they're like, "Where's Ottawa?" Well, I think it's in Minnesota. I just looked at my uncle. I'm like, "Is he serious right now?" Like, I was so offended. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah, I mean, it's the capital of Canada. Come on, put some respect on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I joined Ottawa Senators fandom at a similar time, Zach, as people who watch the show know. I hopped on when Dominic Hasek came over here. I was a Hasek fan first, and then he came to Ottawa, and then I said, okay, I'm a Sens fan. So other than Hasek, who are some of the guys on the team when you first started liking the team that you really latched onto?
Danny Heatley, Vermette. Throwback. Oh yeah, Vermette. Who else? I liked. I'm gonna mention Martin Lapointe too when he got traded from the Blackhawks to the Senators.
Nice.
Tyler Arneson.
Tyler Arneson, Patrick Eaves, or Robin Leonard, another good Blackhawks Senator legend. Anton Forsberg, obviously another one. And I liked Carlson, and I liked Stone and Alfredson as well. I wouldn't say, like, when Alfredson was there, I didn't really appreciate him until he was gone. I was more of a Heatley Spezza kind of guy, Jason Spezza Heatley. But once he left, I really appreciated what he did for the city and what he did for that team a lot more, especially when he joined Detroit. Yeah, that's tough for me.
Yeah, no doubt, eh? Hey, have you ever been up to Ottawa? Or have you ever been in nation's capital?
I never got a passport. I've never been, but one day I will. It's a bucket list item for me. I really want to do that one day.
Yeah, we need to make that happen. But in the meantime, you're able to see the Sens play quite often, from what I gather. Most recently, maybe not the best game in Chicago, boots on the ground. What was that experience like, being a visiting fan in a building where you often cheer for the home team?
It was a little different. It wasn't the first time. It was the second time I've done that. I remember I was also at the game when it was Stone, Duchesne, and Dzingel. Well, I would say Dzingel came back, but it was their last games before they got healthy scratched and didn't play. And that was that total gong show 8-6 game. That was the first time. I remember sitting in front of the only other Senators fan, but he was giving me crap the whole time for wearing a Blackhawks jersey with a Senators toque. And
playing both sides, eh?
Yeah. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect, so that's what I did that time. And yeah, that was a good game too. But yeah, it was a good time. Had a good time with my uncle, seeing him again. Also hanged out with my aunt during the week a lot, and it was a good time. It was good. I was there for a week, so I came back yesterday, so it felt good to go back to my hometown.
Yeah, Zach and I, we met during the intermission. I put out the bat signal. Any Sens fans at the United Center, you hit me up right away. I said, okay, we got to meet at the first intermission. And Zach, we were chatting. It's like, okay, we're only down 1-0 here. The Sens have been playing a little sloppy, but both of us were in agreement that they're going to turn this thing around. Like, no worries. Like, we were in a state where, yeah, the Sens are going to win 5-1 here. They let one in the first, and they're going to storm back after. What happened in that second period in your eyes?
In my opinion, they just didn't play defense. That's all, simple as that. I mean, I was feeling pretty good. I mean, had a few beers, but like from what I could tell, like they weren't playing defense at all. They were puck watching, and they were just chasing the whole game. And they didn't take the Blackhawks seriously when they only had like one decent line and a hot goalie. I think Stalock's been pretty good for them. I think he's been stealing them a lot of games, and I think he's going to cost them Connor Bedard. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, I would say now that I'm out of Chicago, I'm more of a Senators fan because I'm not very comfortable with how they covered up the sexual assault with Cal Beach. I think that was very disgusting. Unfortunately, I used to be Senators, Blackhawks, White Sox fan. Now I'm just Senators, White Sox because I still watch them all the time. But like, yeah, that's it. I can't stand for something like that. So not to mention that, but it's tough.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely puts a bad taste in your mouth, and almost you hope they don't get Bedard for that too. It's like you shouldn't be,
Yeah, sometimes, yeah,
getting a priority access to a great player, but when you're a basement dweller, just because of the off ice issues that they've had, and obviously the on ice success, a lot of fans around the league too are like, you know what, just let them suck for a while. They've had their time at the top.
Yeah.
And where have you seen the Sens play in Vegas yet? Either?
Yeah, I've actually hit you guys up twice with that. The last two times they've been there. That last game was that stinker in November where they lost 5-1. I was there. Yeah. You could pull that up. I think I tweeted Martian and you guys, and I also was there last March, a year ago to the date from when I was in Chicago this week in Vegas, and that was my first VGK game, and that was pretty cool. I never sat that close before, so
yeah, you're right behind the bench. I've already got it pulled up right here.
Nice.
Yeah, I got two of them up there. Yeah, and I think the first interaction I had with you guys was when I had a puck from a Drake Batherson, Tim Stützle goal from March 14th, 2021. Joey Dack's NHL debut and victory,
nice.
Or not debut. In my mind, that was his debut, not that shitty game in Buffalo, but yeah. Yeah. I was a little upset when he left, but I would say Gustafsson. I think they should have never traded him, in my honest opinion. I like Cam Talbot, but call me crazy. I know we saw Radek Bach's son said that the Sens are winning the cup, which I'm not that optimistic though, but I think they should have made the playoffs in 2021. I'm not smoking anything. I'm just saying they should have made the playoffs in 2021. That was a bad division. They could have won a few more games against Edmonton, and they're in. If they rolled with Forsberg and Gustafsson, I think they would have made a run that year. I think they could have gotten a sleepy Toronto team, and maybe Winnipeg would have been a tough series, and Vegas would have been a tough series. But I think about that all the time for some reason. But yeah. That season, that was a little frustrating for me.
No, that's fair. I mean, that was a season. The Montreal friggin' Canadiens made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So that was a season where there was you could take advantage of the way things shook out. That's for sure. But that is a hot take to say the Sens should have made the playoffs in 2021 because Edmonton, it was basically the Harlem Globetrotters up against the Washington Generals.
They were sick that year. They should have done something against Winnipeg. I don't know what happened that year.
It was insane how Connor McDavid and Draisaitl just completely dominated the Sens. So they broke records all over the place.
Yeah, I didn't watch that many games that year, but that was it was my last season living in Chicago, and I remember I was watching a lot of Blackhawks and Senators games because I was working 60 hours a week at FedEx during COVID, and that's all. That was my one true happiness that season was the lowly Ottawa Senators, and they had the new 2D jerseys. I bought so many effing jerseys. I'm so upset with myself, but it is what it is. I got all of them now. I'm happy about that.
What do you have names on the back, or do you just rock the clean white?
I like the clean white and black, and also I told you right before we recorded, I got one with my name on it, 96, above my computer right now, underneath a picture of my mom and my dad and a few other fun stuff. And I also got if I could,
let's see.
Try not to touch my power button. I got a Hossa Senegal right here in Alfredson. I don't want to touch my power button and turn everything off.
Yeah. No, that's golden.
I think Marian Hossa, that's the perfect Sens fans, Blackhawks fans, like hands united. Like both those fan bases absolutely love Marian Hossa.
Yeah, as if we went right to Tyler Arneson and Martin.
Yeah.
Just skipped over Marian.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot. Yeah. Like I would lie to people and say, "Oh, I love Marian Hossa. I loved him on the Senators." For real, it was just the Blackhawks, though. But I really think they should have retired his number Monday night and not November against the Penguins. But that was the Blackhawks' decision, not our decision. That should have been ours because it was an 8 p.m. start. I was thinking, "Ooh, they might be retiring Hossa's number that night." So that's why I bought the tickets and made the trip. But it's still had a good time. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. And then to put a final member to this Ottawa-Chicago club, how about a guy who's known for neither of these stops? Peter Bondra played for both these teams as well.
Oh yeah, I remember both. I remember the Blackhawks one.
Yeah, that's right.
The Senators one, but yeah.
No, the Senators one.
Yeah, the Blackhawks one.
It would have been right when you started becoming a Sens fan, because it was the 2004 trade deadline where they went out and traded Brooks Laich, who ends up having like a 10-15 year career with Washington, and Ottawa got 20 games worth of Peter Bondra. But hey, it was still a fun story there. Now, getting to the team today, Zach, where are you at with them? Like, obviously the playoff push it's a race at the very least right now, 5 points back with a few games in hand over the New York Islanders. Are you confident that this is a team that can make a final push, or do you think that the strength of schedule, or is there another reason that's maybe making it a little less likely for you, thinking that they could get a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I'm hopeful that they can make it, but I'm emotionally preparing myself for them to have a rough one, game 82 against Buffalo, unfortunately. But I'm not trying to get my hopes up too high. I think they could do it, but they gotta stay consistent.
It needs to either die before game 82, or it needs to happen. I don't know if I could take the stress of a do or die game 82 in Buffalo.
I can't take that, and I know if it's a like a play-in kind of game and Buffalo wins it, we're never going to hear the end of it. That's the thing I'm worried about.
Guys, I'm the opposite of you guys. I want that. Give me all on the line, game 82 in Buffalo. I'm making the drive. Ross, you're going to fly down. Zach, we're going to meet you there too. We're going to bring an army of Sens fans for that game, and it's going to go the way we want it. So I bring on the chaos. I want that.
Are you allowed to watch games outside of Ottawa from now on, Pills? I mean, your last two are your combined 11-1.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe what can I go to the parking lot at least? Like, can I be at the game? I just don't go in the arena and then I just tailgate and watch it, or is that still bad mojo?
Well, just do what we did when we went to Buffalo. Just show up for the third period.
Or the fourth quarter, as the parking attendant told us. Y'all are here the fourth quarter. Park wherever you want. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, where were you? And who said that? What was the location for that? I need to know that.
Okay, yeah, we can get into the story. So, no, Ross and I, our first live game together actually was a World Juniors outdoor game. What year was that, Ross? You got a better memory for that than me.
2018, Brady Tkachuk. It was when they wore those Bills jerseys. They were playing out in Buffalo.
Yeah, so they were playing in Buffalo. We were living in Toronto. Not a far drive at all. It took us 6 hours to get there. A transport truck caught fire on the highway. We get there in the third period. and we pull up to the parking lot, and we're just yelling at the parking attendant, like, where can we park? We're trying to get to the game. And he's like, you guys are just showing up now? It's the fourth quarter. The game's already over. And we're like, dude, it's hockey. But obviously this guy is a football parking
He was
attendant.
right, because it went to overtime, and there was
That's fair.
Yeah, you got a point.
Fair. I mean, joke's on us, actually. Damn, I never spun it that way, Ross. But we were lucky because, the game did end up getting tied, going to overtime and a shootout, so we got to see that. But, wild game in Buffalo.
Super wild. What's the best game that you've seen in person, Zach?
I'd say the best game I've seen in person it'll be a Blackhawks game. It was a 6-1 defeating of the St. Louis Blues, and I remember seeing a St. Louis Blues fan throw a Blackhawks fan down the stairs at the United Center in the 300s. Yeah, that was that sticks in my head. I don't really have a hatred for St. Louis because of Brady Tkachuk, obviously, but like just that alone kind of rubs me the wrong way. I mean, but yeah. Chicago, St. Louis, they're it's like Israel and Palestine kind of a little bit, but it's other than that, I'd say I haven't seen any good Sens games, unfortunately. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say my record. I mean,
I can believe it, because if you see games in Vegas where the Senators are terrible, and you see games in Chicago where the Senators have won
they never win there. They never win there.
Never win. Yeah.
So what's your record?
0-4 for now, but I don't want to ban myself yet because I gotta see my team. I love you don't understand how much I love the Senators now.
You can't come to Buffalo either, Zach.
I don't want to go.
Okay.
I'm out. No. Don't tweet me. Don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. I'm not going.
Awesome.
That's hilarious. All right, Zach. Final question for me is: you mentioned before we started you had a couple things loaded up, so floor is yours. What story do you got for us in the chamber that you wanted to get out here?
Okay, hold on. The one thing that I didn't cover was during the fight on Monday, I had a fan say, "Oh, they can fight, but we can score." And I wanted to mention the Cal Beach stuff again, but we already did that. So, yeah, that's about it. Yeah, you guys did a good job covering the sexual assaults. I mean, I grew up with that team, and now it's tainted now. Thanks a lot, Bowman.
That's tough.
McDonough, John McDonough. Thank you. But, yeah, I'm sorry to mention that again. But, yeah.
Big part of kind of what's wrong with the game, what's wrong with the culture right now. And I mean, that's a prime example and one that's close to your heart. So, I mean, I'm pissed too as an outsider. I can only imagine what it would be like to learn that about a team that you love for all those years. Yeah.
And I also talked about I got a lot of jerseys too, that as well. I never played hockey. I never had enough money for it. I was part of high school basketball varsity a little bit, but that's pretty much my only playing or management or sporting background. But other than that, I've been watching hockey for 20 years. It's my sport, and I don't know what I'd do if VGK didn't existed, so I could go to these games out here still. So I'm happy about that.
Final question for me then on that note, does that pregame thing ever get kind of cliche, or is it so many new people every time that it's just like a Vegas show? Because we were watching it and we had the full diaper being like, hey, it's a 10:30 start already. Like, can the game start by 11? And we're watching these people in like Dungeons and Dragons costumes just kind of playing on the ice. It looked like, it was a little bit long. Like, does that ever get old for you, or you just
that is such an old man take, Ross. I love it though.
All I gotta say is when you're there, you got a couple of pops in you. It doesn't matter.
It's awesome. Yeah, Ross, until you go to a game,
it's a
you
great
can't judge
experience.
it. Yeah, it's incredible.
We could rag on them for
in Ontario, Pilsy, where people it's like medieval times.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the vibe it gives me.
Yeah, medieval times. I get that vibe too, like a Mighty Python kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that guy that does it, he's actually a very nice guy, a little British guy. He's my mom met him. She was battling cancer, and they met had an appointment just recently, And they said, "Oh, I'll be at the game with my son on Wednesday night." And he said, "Oh, that's cool." And we took a picture. So yeah, he's a nice guy.
Nice.
But
That's
I always it was I like it. I mean, the fans are spoiled in my opinion. I mean, they don't know what it's like to have a bad team, and I think they got to have one bad season before an NBA team gets here, because I don't know about that. I mean, the Raiders, they're California. All the California transparents, that's their team, and they got transparent team, transparent city. So like, it's still a VGK town, but I think when an NBA team gets here, it's going to explode because they love the basketball out here.
Interesting. Well, we'll see. Hey, you got a March Madness pick for us? Shout out FanDuel. You got a March Madness pick for us?
I was going to pick Northwestern, but I got some personal feelings about that, what I won't get into. So the Paul Blue Demons, because that's my sister's alma mater, but that's about it. I don't know anything about this year. So
all right, fair.
But
I'm hammering the Blue Demons. Who's that?
Yeah, the Paul Blue Demons.
All right.
That's, I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to even be in the tournament, so don't even bother.
Well, if they are, I'd rather have one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Zach, can't thank you enough for jumping on, being a SensCentral Citizen. It's awesome that you and Pillsy got to meet. I'm looking forward to having a few pops with you at a game as well. Can't thank you enough. Thanks for making Sens Twitter better. Everyone can go follow him at YoungZachary96. Thanks again for doing this, man. We'll do it again down the road.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, stick taps to Zach for joining us. Really fun conversation with him. And now we have a game day preview to get into. The Ottawa Senators in the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington. I brought up last year's game. I don't want to get into it any further than that. They had the fewest shots on goal that they had in a single game last season. Pillsy, it was just plain ugly what we saw in Seattle. 14 shots on goal in a 4-2 loss.
Yeah, I don't even want to comment on it, Ross. Let's move on to this game day preview.
All right. Well, the Seattle Kraken, let's start with them because they're a team on the rise. They're a team that, yeah, sure, they probably play in overall the weakest division, if that's fair for me to say. I think they've almost evened out now, but Vegas is tied with LA at 82 points. Seattle right there at 80 points. But Seattle is on a 5-game win streak. Their penalty kill is amazing. I'm actually a little surprised to say that their home record is 16-12-3. So no real home ice advantage. Their road record, ironically, is elite. One of those 21 wins coming against Ottawa. Ottawa's looking to even the season series right now. Final meeting of the year against the Kraken. But 37-21-6. That's a pretty impressive second year in the league, currently sitting in the third playoff spot. What is it about this Kraken team for you that's allowing them to have some immediate success?
Ross, I don't know where you're getting your stats for the penalty kill for the Seattle Kraken, as their penalty kill is 26th overall in the league at 74.6%.
Well, they've killed off 26 of their last 27, so I wonder what that number was like before.
Wow. Okay, that's why I did one of those dog head tilts when you said their penalty kill was amazing, because I'm literally looking at it right now, 26 out of 32 overall. So they've definitely stepped it up recently. Wow.
Yeah, ever since February 14th, the little Valentine's Day, because they'd given up 5 power play goals in 3 games leading into that game on Valentine's Day against Winnipeg, and then since then the PK is 26 for 27. Right now. So I wonder what that season long mustn't have been pretty before then.
That's interesting, because one of my keys to victory, I was going to go to, it's a bad penalty kill, so take advantage on the power play. So I'm glad we worked this out before I put all my chips in on that one. So I'll pivot to my next one, Ross, and that is my key to victory for the Ottawa Senators is you gotta win the faceoffs here. The Seattle Kraken are the second worst team in faceoff percentage at 45.6%. I don't think there's a single guy on their team, I was looking at it, that has a faceoff, that takes notable amount of draws. No, even at all. There's not a single player on the team that has a faceoff percentage over 50%. So this is one where the Sens can get possession easily. I would say the Ottawa Senators have great not great, but good centermen. And especially when you got guys like Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux that can step in and win faceoffs. And Ross, we're not sure about the lines. It hasn't been finalized, but new addition, Patrick Brown is 55% on the dot. Mark Kastelic does very well on the faceoff dot. So that's where I want to see this team dominate the Kraken.
I'm really curious to see what Senators come out tonight, because is it going to be the 5-game win streak Sens, or the team that thinks they can cheat defensively and still be all right? The team that lost 5-0 in Chicago. But this Seattle team, they're deep. Like, you look at their bottom 6 versus Ottawa's, they've scored so many more goals. It's almost embarrassing when you look at it. But then, of course, when you're doing the expansion draft, it's all third line guys that are available. So it's how are you going to get the top end talent? And they've been able to accomplish that a little bit with first-year full-timer Maddie Venes centering the top line. He's expected to be with Jared McCann and Jordan Eberle. The second line is Alexander Wenberg between Jaden Schwartz and Oliver Bjorkstrand. The third line, Yanni Gord, Eli Tolvanen, and Froden as well. And then the fourth line is Morgan Geekie with Brandon Tanev and Daniel Sprong. On defense, Vince Dunn, it's a tongue twister, with Adam Larson as the top pair. Then Jamie Alexiak with Will Borgen is the second pair. Third pair, a little bit of yin and yang, the defensive-minded Carson Soucy and the offensive-minded Justin Schultz. We still aren't sure whether it's Philip Grubauer or Martin Jones in goal for Seattle. Leading scorer is Jordan Eberle, 51 points, 64 games. As I mentioned, Seattle is on a 5-game win streak as well. Who's your lookout player for this Seattle Kraken?
My lookout player, Ross, is their top goal scorer, and this guy's been really good for the Seattle Kraken, Ross, and that's Jared McCann. Like, he's at 31 goals this season, and he's been hot lately. In his last 7 games, he has 10 points, 5 goals, 5 assists. As you can see from the lineup here, he plays on the top line with Maddie Venes and Jordan Eberle. So the best up-and-coming center on the team, the guy who leads the team in points, and then on the wing, McCann, who leads the team in goals. So Jared McCann is someone that I always look out for, Ross, and like, this obviously isn't sustainable, but he's at a 22% shooting percentage clip right now. So he's one of those guys that if you give him time and space, he's going to make you pay for it. So I'm looking out for Jared McCann here.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go to his right. My lookout player will be Maddie Venes. Just give the guy the Calder Trophy. I know a lot of Sens fans were excited going into the season, whether it was Jake Sanderson or Shane Pinto. But Maddie Venes, man, this guy needs a ton of credit for being able to step into a number 1 center position right away. Now, you'll notice when Seattle gets up in games, hopefully we're not noticing it tonight, but throughout the season, that they'll go to that Wenberg line a little bit more. Wenberg's actually averaging more ice time this season than Maddie Venes, but Venes has been a game breaker. Not only is he a great playmaker, he's got 11 points in his last 10 games as well, but he's playing on the right side of the puck. He was a guy we were so high on going into that draft, Pillsy. So It's unfortunate that Ottawa had to go on that hot streak at the end of the COVID year, 12-3-1 at the end, and kind of ruin that draft positioning. But Maddie Venes is a stud and will be for a long time. So you mentioned wanting to dominate that faceoff battle. That's where you got to take control of that over Maddie Venes. Make him play defense. Don't let him get comfortable with the puck, and hopefully you can turn that into offensive opportunities. He's already up to 56 points in 72 games, if you include the 10 games he played at the end of last season. So he's on a trajectory to be one of the league's best, but as we notice with these young centermen, the Sens have a lot of them. They often struggle in the dot. He's only at 42% both this year and in his career. So take advantage of that. Make them play defense, because when you let these guys have time and space, they're going to make you pay. They've got shooters on the wing, man. Bjorkstrand, Tolvanen, these guys, and McCann, 31 goals, the guy you just profiled. You just need to be able to control that. And if you're the Senators, you just have to go into this with a little more confidence that you should win this game. Despite where they are in the standings, you should be able to win this game, and especially with the emotion after last game's loss.
At least be competitive, right, Ross? Like that, losing 5-0 to the Blackhawks, like the Detroit Red Wings went in there and just beat the Blackhawks. Like you can't be doing that. So I think we're going to see a very different performance, and I think the Sens are going to come out flying out of the gate here.
Still no decision on the lineups from DJ Smith. We'll quickly pull up in case you missed yesterday's episode. The practice lines: Stützle, Tkachuk, Giroux, Pinto, DeBrincat, Batherson, Gambrell, Joseph, and Patrick Brown. And then Kastelic between Kelly and Watson, Shabbat Zub, Sanderson, Hamonic, Chychrun, and then Holden or Brandstrom. we're not going to go into full panic mode here until a decision is made, but it would be ridiculous to scratch Erik Brannstrom based on his recent performance. Matt Sogard, we expect to get the start. Kevin Mandolese is up with the team as well, which would leave Derek Brassard and Julien Gauthier as extras if they do maintain what they had last time. Just a light optional skate. I don't expect many of the guys to be on the ice here. It starts when you're listening to this, it will have just started pretty much here in a few minutes time, but I don't think we're going to get any news, earth-shattering news, I should say, in today's lead up to the 10 p.m. start. But who's your locked on player tonight for the Ottawa Senators, Bills?
My locked on player is going to be number 6, Jakob Chychrun. Ross, I don't think Sens fans have put the microscope on a new addition's time on ice more than anyone more than Jakob Chychrun. He's only played 3 games, and it seems like everyone is obsessed where he's playing, how much time he's playing with, who his partner is. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how DJ Smith uses Chychrun here, because in all 3 games, Ross, he's had multiple different partners. Like, he hasn't had one consistent spot where he's played. He's played left side, right side. So it's going to be very intriguing to see where Jakob Chychrun is here. And I'm hoping to see him a little bit more on the power play. I like him on that second unit with Jake Sanderson as well, as he's the guy that kind of comes closer towards the net there. So Jakob Chychrun, I mean, this is the big trade deadline acquisition. Let's see if they can find a spot for him.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, these are Jakob Chychrun's partners. Thanks to Nat Statrick for this one. Natural Statrick, great resource we use all the time. He's played the most, and this is 5-on-5, because you get kind of jumbled up when you get into power play, penalty killing situations. And I mean, it's the third pair, either way you slice it. He's played 27 minutes with either Brannstrom or Holden, the one game he played with Holden, and he's played less than that combined with Sanderson, Chabot, Zub, and Hamonic, even though it was one shift with Hamonic. They had 4 shots against, must have just been pinned in their own zone type thing. So yeah, I want to see probably a 10-game sample before we can really dive in to what trends are happening. Especially you look at like the 5-0 game against Chicago. Of course, you're going to cheat a little bit more offensively as you're kind of going back. Hopefully it's more the coaches that are doing that rather than the players giving up on defensive plays like they did in that game. And then the Blue Jackets game, they just hadn't controlled the whole third period. So you can try other things or whatever, and you're not necessarily throwing your top 4 guys out over and over and over again. But these are the numbers so far. It's looked great with Brannstrom. It's just Brannstrom always plays the least out of every defenseman on the team. So how are you going to get Chychrun playing top 4 minutes while being effective? So I like that. We're going to be watching Jakob Chychrun very closely in tonight's game for the Ottawa Senators. I'm going to go with Shane Pinto because I think that he's the center of the line that I thought was the worst line of the game against Chicago. The line that cheated the most offensively with Batherson and DeBrincat on both sides. DeBrincat wanted to get his cookies in his revenge game. 7 shots on goal. Didn't really do a whole lot else. And Pinto's got to be the defensive conscious on that line. We were lauding throughout his development how Batherson was such a two-way guy. But I don't know what's happened. He is just a strictly offensive playmaker these days. It really seems like defense is optional with him in recent games. So hopefully Pinto can kind of bring these guys back and, finish the defensive plays. My God, don't just poke a stick and away you go. Like, finish through the body, finish strong defensively, and have an active stick. And I hope that Pinto can do that tonight. A goal would be a bonus, but I just want to see like a strong defensive game from that second line. And I don't think it's asking too much against. They're probably going to be matched up against Wenberg, Bjorkstrand. Like, these aren't heavy hitters like we've seen in games past. Not Chicago withstanding, and probably Columbus too. But like, I thought they were great in the Rangers game too, just doing the little things right. So I'll be locked on to Shane Pinto in tonight's game.
Yeah, that's a good one. And we mentioned the center depth here is one spot I would say the Senators certainly have an advantage, especially once you get past Maddie Venes. Although, I mean, you could definitely argue Tim Stützle is ahead of Maddie Venes right now. So overall, the center depth is where I think this team needs to thrive to beat the Kraken. So yeah, Shane Pinto needs to have a good game.
And just to pick up on your face-off point, Pilsy, Pinto's figuring it out, man. 52% on the year, and he's taken over 630 face-offs. So this was a guy who's 32% in only 5 games last year, 40% in the first 12 games of his NHL career. So inching that career total right near 50%. And guess what? Tonight, game 81 for Shane Pinto. So he's closing in on one full NHL season in all of that. He's got 17 goals, 35 points in 80 games. So, hey, he keeps growing and he could be a hell of a player. But right now, he's a player that has just 1 point in his last 5 games. I'd like to see that, but ultimately, if he brings a strong defensive game like he did against the Rangers, I'll be extremely happy with that as well. Are you confident going into this game, Pilsy?
Uh, it's tough. Like, honestly, I feel like this is like a total reset. So I think we're going to find out a lot about how this game's going to go in the first 15 minutes. Are the Sens going to bounce back? Are they going to show some effort? Are they going to push? Are they going to play defense? So I will say I'm mildly confident, mostly for the reason it simply cannot get worse than that Chicago game. So it's got to go up from here.
That's hilarious. I was going to say, ask me after the first 10 minutes if I'm confident in this game. So
Yeah.
right now, yeah, it's just a nervous anticipation. But guess what, Pilsy? Meaningful games. We are here.
Yes.
Senators are 4-1 in meaningful games this year because we're starting the timeline at the first Detroit game for meaningful games. So they got the 2 wins there, the 2 wins on the weekend, and then we're able to follow that up with a disastrous effort against Chicago. So 4-1 in meaningful games, but hey, the out-of-town scoreboard did not do well the other night. Tonight, the out-of-town scoreboard is again
some heavy hitters.
The 2 teams going head-to-head for the wild card, right? Like, who are we cheering for here, Pills? Do you want the Islanders again? Because, I mean, how many games in hand can they get? Or the Penguins? Like, the 2 teams who currently reside in the 2 wildcard spots are going head-to-head. Who do you want to see win? Of course, we don't want overtime.
Yes, I was going to say, I want to emphasize regulation win no matter what, but I'm on the Islanders, Ross. We talked about this. I have the Islanders dropping out of this because they've got so many games in hand. That Barzal injury is so crucial. And
They're
other
winning.
than Horvat, what's that?
They're winning.
Yeah, they're still winning. That is an issue. But other than Horvat, they didn't make any deadline acquisitions. So I really think that Pittsburgh loaded up, and they're going to have a better chance if Tristan Jarry stays healthy and they've got games in hand here. So I'm cheering for the Islanders in this one, Ross.
Man, since losing 2-1 in Ottawa, right? We also beat them in a shootout later on Valentine's Day. But if you go all the way back to January 27th, they're 10-3-3 in their last 16 games, the New York Islanders. But I'm still on that same side of the ledger as you are there. I'm cheering for the Islanders in that game in regulation. Other games of note, you are cheering for the Dallas Stars to beat the Buffalo Sabres tonight. You're cheering for the New Jersey Devils to beat the Washington Capitals tonight. And is there anything else? That's it. And those are all going to be done. Early games done by the time the Senators take the ice at 10 o'clock Eastern. Are you guys going to have a postcast? It's a late game. Of course we're going to have the postcast. You'll be able to find that on YouTube right at the conclusion of the game. We're going to get it probably pretty quick tonight because I'm going to be finishing up my shift at work. I'm going to stay there, do the postcast from work. So we'll be able to get that. Mershon's going to join us as well. It's the postcast after dark, complete edition against the Seattle Kraken. Billsy, the Kraken game was the one game we took off last year because you were on vacation. We were going to make it work, and we're like, this is so disgusting. We don't even want to do it. So this was our first game postcasting after a game in Seattle. Please give us a good one. Send.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we wrap up, though, Ross, we got to give props to Belleville. That was a big win for the Belleville Senators, a 5-win over Laval. But stop me if you've heard this before, Ross. An Ottawa Senators franchise goalie, well, a goalie in the Ottawa Senators franchise, let me rephrase that, has been injured. Dylan Ferguson, the guy they brought in as an emergency guy to make up for the fact that Mando and Sogard are gone, he got injured in this game, and it was Luke Richardson. No, not that Luke Richardson, but Luke Richardson came in and had a good game, Ross. This was a great game for Belleville. The guys you want to score. Ridley Gregg got one. Lassie Thompson got 2, and they were able to...
Lassie's first goal since like November.
Yeah, I don't know. If you guys go check out Belleville Senators highlights, after he scores the goal, he does one of these. He's just like, thank God, I finally got a goal. So you can see that, like, the relief rise out of his body as he gets that goal there. So we're happy for Lassie there. And the Riddler does what he does. He scores within like a minute of the game. So you love to see that.
Roby as well got on the
Yes.
score sheet. So great to see. Next up for them is Friday. They're on a 3-game road trip. It's 3. I just lost my spot. I clicked on the AHL website and it refreshed on me. Here we go. So it is a
2-game road trip,
but they've already played game 1. So Friday in Utica, Saturday in Lehigh, and then they come back for a game against Utica on Wednesday. So a lot of division matchups. Those Cleveland games are going to be huge in a couple weeks as well. All that for a road to meaningful games for Belleville. But for today, we say goodbye for Brandon Piller and for Zack. Appreciate our SensCentral Citizen. If you want more SensCentral Citizens, we have that all in a very tidy playlist for you on YouTube. You can catch up on any Locked On Senators on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. It also means a lot. It goes a long way to help us if you subscribe to the show, if you hit the thumbs up, and on audio, especially on Apple, you can write a review 5 stars. That shoots up. It helps us grow the show for sure. So if you don't mind being a friend, telling a friend, that goes a long way. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll chat after. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.